Bogolada in Abuja, who are in the gallery to observe the Senate proceedings. I wish you fruitful observations and God's guidance back to your school when you are going back. Remain blessed. Let's acknowledge the staff and students of Jewel Model Schools, Kubwa in Abuja. You are welcome. They are in the gallery to observe the proceedings of the day. I wish you fruitful observations of the Senate proceedings and joining mercies back to your school. You may be seated. Before the point of order, may I request any petition? Any petition? Yes.
President of the Senate, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the petition is from one of my constituents and is challenging his illegal removal from the Equipment Leasing Registration Authority without due regard to extant laws and due process. So he's craving for the indulgence of the Senate to look into it with a view to doing justice to him. The Senate being the representative of the people and therefore jealously guards and protects the rights of the people whenever it is encroached upon. Thank you. Subject to your indulgence, I will lay the petition before the Senate. Thank you.
Yes, you may proceed to lay the petition. The petition is referred to the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petitions to revert to the Senate in 3 weeks. Point of order, the Senator Joel Onawakwo.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, my order is Order 41 and 51. Mr. President, Order 41, the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. 51. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, sir, 41 and 42. Mr. President, do I have your permission?
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Joel Onawakwo had earlier informed me of a tragedy that has befallen the nation, and he requested for an opportunity to bring it up for us to discuss. I think that is the demise of elder statesman. Am I right? So is it the view of the Senate that he be allowed to proceed? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. This motion is in respect of the demise of our senator, our father, an Iroko in Delta State and in Nigeria, Chief Edwin K. Clark, OFR, CON, 25th May 1927 to 17th February 2025. This motion is being sponsored by all the members in this from the data in the South zone of Nigeria, namely myself, Joel Honorable Thomas, distinguished senator, the president of the Senate, Ababio Gosulobot, Senator Ned Nwoko, Ede Dafinone, Baningo Ipalibo, Senator Yeson Allwell, Senator Piggy Barinada, Senator Etim Bassi, Senator Ekong Samson, Senator Dixon Siraki, Senator Agadaga Benson, Senator Kombowi Benson, Senator Jarigbe, Senator Jonah Eteng, Senator Asukwa Ebeyong, Senator Oshomole Adams, Senator Emaswe Neda. The Senate notes with shock the death of Edwin Clark on the 17th of February 2025 after a brief illness at the age of 97 years. Also notes that Pa Clark was born in Kabodo in the Ijo area of what is now Delta State. He attended primary and secondary schools at Efron, Okreka, and Afugbene before completing further studies at the Government Teacher Training College, which later became Delta State University, Ablaka. Thereafter, Clark worked briefly as a school teacher before traveling to the United Kingdom to earn a law degree. Aware that his involvement in the political process began during the pre-independence period when he was elected as a councillor for Bomadi in 1953. Clark later joined the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroon's NCNC. While a student at Holborn College, he was active in the West African Student Union. Aware also that after the military coup of January 1966, Clark was among a group of delegates from the Middle West who opposed any idea of consideration that were raised at an ad hoc constitutional conference set up by Gowon in 1966. The delegation's mandate was Nigerian unity, and when proposal of loose federation were tabled, the region's delegate asked for adjournment. Further aware that he was later appointed Midwestern Commissioner of Education and Finance, and later Finance from 1966 to 1975. As a Commissioner for Education, he was active in the establishment of the Midwest College of Technology that became the foundation of the University of Benin. Recall that during the Second Republic, he was a member of the National Executive Committee of the National Party of Nigeria, NPN, and was the treasurer of the party in Bender State, now in part Delta State, and previously the Midwestern Region Province. In 1983, he was an elected senator from 1979 to 1983. Also recall that in 2016, Clark founded the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEV, along with other leaders. The organization's stated objective is to dialogue with stakeholders and lobby for increased attention and implementation of restructuring, development, security policies by the government of Nigeria. Note that he was an Ijaw leader and a politician for Delta State who worked with the administration of the military governor Samuel Ogbomundia and head of state General Yakubu Gowon between 1966 to 1975. In 1966, he was a member of an advisory committee to the military governor of the Midwestern Region Province. David Ejo was appointed Federal Commissioner of Information in 1975. Informed that Beginning in 1996, Clark was a self-described leader of the Ijaw Nation. He supported the Ijaw ethnic groups in Delta State through an ethnic crisis in Warri and led the Ijaw leadership delegation to meet political leaders. Convinced that Pa Edwin Clark was a nationalist, renowned lawyer, seasoned administrator, philanthropist, and astute advocate for the rise of the Niger Delta, who founded the Edwin Clark Foundation and established a University of Technology in his hometown. Observe that he was a loving father, grandfather, a great-grandfather. He was an amazing man who contributed immensely to his immediate community, his own nations, and the country in general. Accordingly, resolved to 1. Observe a minute silence in his honor. 2. Send a condolence letter to commiserate with the family, the good people of Ijaw, and the government of Delta State. 3. Urge the federal government to immortalize him by naming a national monument after him. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Distinguished Senator Ide Davidone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Ide Dafinone, representing the good people of Delta Central. I rise to support the motion ably raised by my colleague, Senator Joel Onoakpo Thomas. And in doing so, sir, with your permission, I would like to pay my personal tribute on behalf and also on behalf of the good people of Delta Central. Pa Clark was a towering figure in our nation's history, a leader of remarkable courage and unwavering commitment, and equally a man I was privileged to know personally. He was more than just a statesman. To me, he was family, a close friend to my late father, Senator Dafinone, along with his famous brothers, the late Ambassador B.A. Clark, and the literary giant, the late Professor John Pepper Clark. His home in Lagos was walking distance from ours, and even after my father's passing, he remained a dear friend to my mother, constantly checking in on her. Those moments, those bonds, spoke volumes about the kind of man he was, a man of loyalty, consistency, and an unshakable sense of community. He was a pillar of the Niger Delta struggle, a fearless advocate who never wavered in his demand for justice, fairness, and equity. His voice resonated through the halls of power, challenging the status quo and championing the cause of our people. At 97, his faculties remained sharp, his conviction unbending, and his passion for justice unyielding. Chief Clark was also a veteran of these hallowed chambers. He served in the Senate alongside my late father, and in those days, he exhibited the same boldness and tenacity that would define his long and illustrious career. He was never afraid to speak truth to power, and he carried that fearlessness into his later years. In 2007, when Dr. Emmanuel Edouin succeeded Chief James Zibori as governor of Delta State, Chief Clark was at the forefront of the opposition within the PDP that stood firm in our beliefs, demonstrating once again his willingness to stand for principle over convenience. And when I made the decision to leave that party in late 2010 to join the DPP, Democratic People's Party. It was with the blessings of Chief Clerk and other party leaders. He stood by me, unwavering in his support, as he always had been. Papa Clark was not just a political leader. He was a big uncle, a mentor, and a source of strength, not just to me, but to so many sons and daughters of the Niger Delta. No matter the circumstances, I always knew he was in my corner. His presence, his wisdom, and his steadfastness will be deeply missed. We have lost a colossus, but let us not just mourn his passing. Let us honor his legacy by continuing his fight for justice.
Yes. Distinguished Senator Davino, 1 second. Point of order. Distinguished Senator Mangunu.
It's order 52.
Yes, please
Yes.
read.
Order 52, 1 and 2. Subsection 1 and 2. A senator shall not read his speech except if he is moving a motion or presenting a bill. 2. A senator may, however, read short extracts from books or papers in support of his argument and may refresh his memory by reference to notes. And then 3. A senator is allowed to read his speech during debates on the appropriation bill only. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I'm afraid Senator Depinone is not the mover of the motion. He's only contributing, but he's reading a prepared text, which is in violation of our rules.
Point of order is sustained. Distinguished Senator Davino, just use your voice, make brief contributions since you are not the mover of the motion, and let us proceed to give other people a chance. So you have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So I suggest again, sir, that we honor the legacy of this great man, continuing his fight for justice, equality, and the advancement of the Niger Delta and our great country, Nigeria. Rest in peace, Chief Edwin Kiagbodo Clark, CON-OFR. Good night, Papa. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Siraki Dixon.
Mr. President and my dear colleagues, Henry Siraki Dixon, and I represent Bayelsa West, senatorial district from Bayelsa State. Mr. President, I rise with a heavy heart, but nevertheless, with gratitude to God Almighty for the gift of such an incredible and iconic leader of our people, a nationalist par excellence, and a champion for justice and equity and for a better Nigerian federation. Pa Edwin Kiagbodo Clark, OFR, CON, who yesterday, early hours of the other evening, joined his illustrious ancestors and was called to glory by his creator. Mr. President and my dear colleagues, I know that these sentiments of sadness and gratitude to God for a life well spent is shared by all of us in this chamber and across our nation and even beyond. Pa Clark's life is an open book that has been read over and over, examined and re-examined.
for different purposes and by different personalities. And so, his main achievements and the highlights of his illustrious and long career are very well known. A number of people, particularly those who are just getting acquainted to what he did in his life, in his later years, his long life, 97 years, an uncommon age. It's not everyone who can live to that age, and even at that age, retaining his faculties and serving. As we say, no leave, no retirement, no leave, until the very last day. And so younger people, particularly in a nation that struggles to study history, may only look at his contributions in the context of PANDEF, one of the very last initiatives of his. But before then, Pa Clark not only served meritoriously as commissioner for education in the then Midwestern states, he also became commissioner for finance under Ogbemudia, even though he had been assisting unofficially the administration of Ejo, who was the military governor at the time. Thereafter, as a result of his outstanding contributions and services to our people, he was identified by the then head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, who promptly appointed him, then called Federal Commissioner for Information, a role he played diligently and in a manner that endeared him to his boss, and they remained very close up until his last day. After serving as Minister of Information, Pa Clark served in different other capacities, but also ran elections, joined the NPN. Well, they were the backers. They were the big people behind NPN at that time, and supported the administration of President Shagari. Then he now ran for Senate, as we have been told. So here is a man who traversed the entire gamut of national service. As a matter of fact, the secondary school I attended, government secondary school Torebeni, in my local government, was built by Pa Clark when he was Commissioner for Education in the government of then Brigadier Ogbemudia. Some may not know this fact, but the present Bayelsa State, my senatorial district used to be part of Western Region. My senatorial district. The two other senatorial districts were part of the then Eastern Region. We became Midwest, from Western Region, Midwest, Bendel. So growing up, after flying the flag of chanting General Gowon, the military administrator who were calling and marching for was Brigadier Ogbemudia, then Colonel Ogbemudia. The secondary school I attended, and they had a healthy rivalry. When I asked him why they built that kind of secondary school with boarding facilities in my local government, he said because it was a border community. Across it was Amasoma in the then Eastern Region, and that became River State. So Ogbemudia and his colleague and friend, King Alfred Jetesmith, were competing. So they all had to build good schools that will showcase what they were doing. So standing here, I am a beneficiary of the foresight and commitment and dedication to duty. Most of the schools in my area, secondary schools, primary schools, were built by these hard-working, dedicated gentlemen. He was a commissioner. Ogbemudia was his governor. So as we give credit to him, we also give credit to his boss, who gave him all the support. Now, Pa Clark became a lot of things. He wasn't a self-styled Ijaw leader. No, let me correct that. He was our acclaimed national leader of the Ijaw nation. Until his passing, was chairman of the INC board, the Ijaw National Congress Board of Trustees. Mr. President, I served as national legal advisor almost 20 years ago of that body. Pa Clark and his colleagues set up the South-South People's Congress, SOPEC, which Mr. President, when you were commissioner and one of the key leaders in Akwa Ibom, were all part of. Then he and his colleagues set up the Southern Nigeria Forum, Southern Nigeria Leaders Forum, which until his death was chairman. And they had also the South and Middle Belt Leaders Forum, which again he coordinated as chairman. And then few years later, PANDEF. All these were his attempts at bridge building to see that Nigeria is transformed, that whereas we remain a nation of nationalities, that in the words of our current national anthem, it used to be our old national anthem, but it has become our new national anthem, which says, though tribes and tongues may differ, one brotherhood we stand. That was what Pa Clark believed in. And when he and his colleagues, and I'm sure, Mr. President, it won't be too long before we will take tributes about his dear friend and compatriot, one of our respected fathers, Pa Adebanjo, who passed 3 days or 4 days before him, as if, almost at the same age, as if these two fathers and iconic leaders had a discussion and said, well, we've spent all our lifetime fighting for a better Nigeria. Time to depart. And both of them used to say, for those who had the benefit of being close, who were mentored by them, they used to say they were in the boarding, was it? That they had collected their boarding passes, just waiting to board. So, Mr. President, here was a man who gave the entirety of his adult life to the service of our nation for a better Nigeria, an inclusive Nigeria, a Nigeria for all, not a Nigeria for some, a Nigeria that will be like other nations that will leave our country and fight for visas to. They fight to enthrone justice and fairness and inclusion. We sometimes resist change, and yet we admire them. But these are people who want Nigeria to be like those nations, and if even better. So, my dear friends, we have lost an iconic leader and father, and a bridge builder and nationalist par excellence. I join on behalf of my senatorial district and our people in paying tributes. And I know that there are so many programs lined up, which I'm part of them, and we will be notifying Mr. President of the Senate and all of you so that at your own time, find time to be in some of these events all the way through till we take his remains to Keagbado. But the lesson remains. They've left a Nigeria for us to continue to build a nation of fairness, a nation of oneness, and a nation that will build to be one of the greatest nations on earth if we work together to enthrone justice and fairness. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, let me just Chief Edwin Clark was a pan-Nigerian. So I've heard from Major Nation. I've heard from Urobo Nation. Let me hear from the corner, one of our elder statesmen, former governor of Kebbi State, His Excellency Governor Adiero, now distinguished senator and one of the landlords of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Mohammed Adamu Alero is my name. I represent the good people of Kebbi State. Mr. President, let me start by extending my condolences to the families of late Pa Ike Clark and also the government and people of Delta State, and indeed the whole of the Niger Delta region, because he is an acknowledged leader of the entire Niger Delta region. Pa Clark was a nationalist by excellence. He preached unity, he preached brotherhood, he was a bridge builder, bringing people from different ethnic groups in order to live in peace. I recall our interaction with him during the 2014 National Conference, and he made a brilliant presentation on the challenges facing the Niger Delta: environmental degradation, oil spillage, and what have you. And we all sympathize with the people of the Niger Delta on the travails they are faced with. And that presentation made the conference to come up with a resolution that the federal government of Nigeria should do whatever is humanly possible to mitigate the environmental degradation of the Niger Delta. Pa Clark fought for his people and fought for the unity of this country. And we lost a dream. We lost a leader who is irreplaceable, because people like him nowadays are very, very rare. So, Mr. President, I mourn the death of Pa Clark. On the issue of fighting for minority, even though he is a nationalist by excellence, he always fight for the right of minorities, which is normal in a federation like ours, because we have unity in diversity. And he remained very consistent in that fight. And we will remember him for what he stood for, that is the unity and stability of this country. May his gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Thank you.
Senator Nengi, you made the discussion halfway. Are you sure what you want to say had not been said? So let's give you 1 minute to just say something, because I think the elder statesman has done justice to the memory of late Pa Edwin Clark.
Mr. President, thank you very much for this unique honor and recognition. I came in, signed, went out, and then came back. And that I want to register my sincere condolences. And I also want to put it on record that I sent a text to Senator Joel, my friend and younger brother, to have me included in this particular motion, because this motion is all about Niger Delta, and it's about Nigeria. And unfortunately, maybe Joel has not seen my text. And when I scanned through the list, I found out that my name is completely missing. I want to put your record that I'm a co-sponsor of this very, very important motion. Mr. President, like I said, Edwin Clark is not about Niger Delta alone. If you are a minority in Nigeria, Edwin Clark inspires you. If you are a minority in your own state, Edwin Clark inspires you. If you are a minority in your local government, Edwin Clark inspires you. If you are a minority in your ward, Chief Edwin Clark inspires you. Wherever and whenever he speaks to the power that be. I met him a couple of times. Mr. President, every time I hear him he speaks for the downtrodden. He speaks for his people who have been marginalized over and over and over and over. And therefore, for Nigeria and Nigerians, and for those leaders who are aspiring to be like Edwin Clark, they must transcend beyond ethnicity, beyond religion, beyond regionalism, because Edwin Clark speaks for anybody who finds himself in a degradation manner, in a marginalized manner. He speaks for so many people, unknown to so many people. When he speaks for all those people that have been marginalized. And therefore, on behalf of myself, the Bauchi Central Constituency extend a profound condolences to this great man. Just 10 days ago, we missed Sir Adebanjo and now Edwin Clark. I begin to wonder how Nigeria would be without some of these people who are actually provided checks and balances to the power that be. One thing that inspires me, that impresses me, is that Edwin Clark is not a person that you call a government in power. Those people that follows government every now and then. He speaks the truth and he challenges those people. He challenges the status quo. I think Nigeria will miss him. I am sure he has created a very wide vacuum that is really, really difficult to fill. And I hope Mr. Senate President seated there will also borrow from Edwin Clark and try to provide this serious gap. You have demonstrated capacity for Nigeria, and therefore you need to carry on, not seeing yourself from Akwa Ibom, Niger Delta, southern Nigeria. These are the opportunities. These are times, Mr. President, that some of you who are there should stand up and be counted, because this country needs people like that, and therefore all the limitations that he had during his lifetimes, you have the opportunity, other people have the opportunity to fill in the gap. We are going to meet this man, a great man, and may his soul rest in perfect peace, Mr. President.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator Anengi, you almost abused the Senate President, but I allowed you because you are one of those that happen to have been trained by Edwin Clark. And I'm happy that he left people like you behind, because I see you with other leaders taking pictures of recent. 2 weeks ago, you were in Mina, and I think a few days ago, I saw you with your colleague leaders of the other divide taking pictures. So we are waiting for you in 2027. Let me hear from the Middle Belt. the Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, without sounding like a broken record, I want to say that the only thing that is missing in this motion is my name. And because, Mr. President, the story of Chief Edwin Clark is the history of Nigeria. And today, it is very sad that we are losing him at a time when his wise counsel is most needed. Mr. President, a little example is about the contributions of Chief Edwin Clark in the various conferences, constitutional conferences, that gave birth to what we, the new generation of Nigerians, are enjoying today, called Nigeria. At a time when many people were advocating for separation, for division, for confederacy, Chief Edwin Clark and his co-travelers stood for Nigeria. And so, history will be kind to him to say that Chief Edwin Clark certainly was one of the formidable founding fathers of modern Nigeria. And Mr. President, I will not end this contribution without mentioning Chief Edwin Clark, his PANDEV, the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, and collaboration with the Middle Belt Forum to speak for the minority communities in Nigeria. And so it is not wrong, therefore, for anybody to say here that Pa Edwin Clark definitely was a bridge builder, because he represented the voice for the minority communities in this country, even as he advocated for a united Nigeria. And so I want to say, therefore, that Pa Edwin Clark was a stickler for justice, fairness, and equity. But as we always say, we are not configured by God to live forever. And so a time comes when we must leave this space. And so this time is the time for Pa Edwin Clark to leave this space, but not without leaving very indelible marks in the sands of history, so that when the history of Nigeria is written even 100 times, the name Edwin Clark will feature prominently in the history of Nigeria. And so it is our prayer for those of us from the Middle Belt, for those of us Pan-Nigerians, to remember a nationalist called Pa Edwin Clark from Niger Delta that advocated for the whole of Nigeria. And so we pray that God grants him a merciful judgment and a place in his kingdom. I wish him to rest in perfect peace until we meet, not to part anymore. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Mr. President.
Thank you. Let me just hear from the Southeast and then we end. Distinguished Senator Abaribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Abaribe. I represent Abia South and I'm chairman of the Southeast Senators Forum. Of course, we cannot but also join our colleagues and everyone who has spoken today to eulogize Pa Edwin Clark. We know and we also acknowledge his contributions to Nigeria, and especially, as has been pointed out by everyone here, his fight for the we call them now the marginalized, and the underprivileged, and those who have been done badly by the country called Nigeria. Today, as we pay tribute to him, we can also urge each and every one of us that it's just not enough to praise him and say that he's a fighter for our rights, but also for us to imbibe those qualities that he encapsulated in his life. He spent a very long life fighting for the poor, fighting for the underprivileged, fighting for those who have nobody to fight for them in this country. And we join in praising him for his sagacity and for his steadfast courage in speaking truth to power. Sometimes some of the things that he said came across to us, especially in the Southeast, as somebody who only cared for those from the South to the detriment of others. But when you look clearly at his contributions, and when you come close to him, because at the point I was minority leader, we had cause to meet with him and have interactions with him about the direction Nigeria was going. And he always had this implicit trust that Nigeria will be better than it is today. When we come to the prayers, we're also going to make some amendments because prayer number 2 says, send a condolence letter. I don't think that this Senate will only send a condolence letter. I think the Senate should also send a delegation to the burial of this great man, having also been a senator in this chamber. So I use this opportunity on behalf of the Southeast to say adieu to this great man, and may his demise lead to a better state of this country called Nigeria. I so submit.
Thank you. Let me thank all my colleagues for their contributions, and to say that amongst the sponsors of this motion on the demise of this colossus, this Iroko tree, political Iroko tree, in the person of distinguished Senator Edwin Clark, welfare, CON, on 25th day of May 1927 he was born, and he left on the 17th of February 2025. Is the Senate President, Senator Godswill Oworakwabio, GCON. And I want you to delete Senator Okpebola Monday from the list of those who sponsored the motion because he's no longer with us. He's now a governor, so he can do that under the governor's forum. So please delete his name from there. Joel, did you hear what I said? I said delete Okpebola. He's no longer with us. He's now a governor. So he will do his own condolence under the governor's forum. I think all that needed to be said had been said. So let me thank Governor Siraki Dixon, thank Joel Onawakwo, and all those who have spoken, particularly our elders in this Senate, starting from Distinguished Senator Alero to Distinguished Senator Baribe, and the very upcoming elder of Nigeria, Distinguished Senator Ningi, for their speeches and eulogies on the demise of this iconic statesman. I had the luck of making Pa Edwin Clark a bit happy with development, not just when I was a governor, but when I was a minister of Niger Delta. I was able to work with contractors to complete the 26-year-old edifice that was meant to be the headquarters of the Oil Mineral Producing Areas Commission, UMPADEC, started in 1994 and abandoned. I was able to work and complete it. And I know that Edwin Clark personally wrote to me. He was a man who was excited about development. He wanted to see a better Niger Delta. He wanted to see a better Nigeria. Then I also had the opportunity to do concentric 11 kilometers of routes around his domain using the interlocking system because of the terrain that could not carry asphalt. And when that was commissioned, he said it was a surprise that after decades of struggle for development, this was the first time he was having a road in his own area, a road within his domain. So when we go for the obsequies, you'll see the interlocking roads infrastructure that we were able to put together for him under the Niger Delta Development Commission. I can recall how excited he was on that day. And then a lot of people may see him as an activist, but I would rather say that he was a man who lamented over the state of Nigeria. He was pained that Nigeria, with the resources available, should have done better than we did. He saw Nigeria as a sleeping elephant that should actually have been a moving giant, a lion in the Committee of States in Africa. Edwin Clark did his best to fight for the rights of the minorities across the entire country. So he traversed from Niger Delta to the north, from north to Middle Belt, and tried to unite them. And he tried his best in a plural system like Nigeria, with different ethnic groups. You can imagine in a place like Adamawa alone, we have well over 97 ethnic groups in Adamawa State alone. So one man took it upon himself to stand all the way in Delta State to fight for the rights of those minorities. And for some of us from the majority tribe, we may not know how deprived it could be to belong to the minorities, even in terms of employment opportunities, in terms of amenities, and in terms of even patronage in different places. Even sometimes you will belong to the majority tribe like the Ndigbos, and you still suffer the same fate. So you can imagine what Edwin Clark was fighting for, and always on television. He had a very strong voice. His voice resonated above the age of 90. At any point in time when Edwin Clark speaks, you see the passion that he was speaking about Nigeria. And then, I don't know, the voice never went. So today, we have lost him. He has died with a very strong voice that resonated everywhere. And then a voice that every Nigerian child, whether you are 50 years and below or above, will always recognize that that is Edwin Clark, Edwin Clark speaking, when you hear it on television or on radio. We miss him in Niger Delta region. We miss him in Nigeria. I pray to Almighty God to give us another Edwin Clark that will stand for the rights of every Nigerian, irrespective of your tribe, irrespective of your creed, irrespective of your religion, irrespective of whether you are a minority or a majority. And of course, when we read through his different books, you will see the travels of Edwin Clark and his efforts to bring about a just and egalitarian Nigerian society. And so today, the Nigerian Senate mourns with the family of Edwin Clark. We mourn with the Yabodo community. We mourn with the Ijoland. We mourn with Delta State in particular. We even mourn with the senatorial district of my brother, Senator Siraki Dixon, that we didn't know was part of the Midwest, despite being in the Niger Delta. Little wonder that your wife is from the Southwest. So you were already, so honestly, so now I know if we have to do what we did during the MPN days, when you are too strong, we send you back to Cameroon. We say you are not from Nigeria. I know where to deport you to. I'm telling you. So the Nigeria did better than the colonialists. Those ones who just come to a community and cut you into two. This group belonged to Cameroon. This group belonged to Calabar and all that. I was in Cote d'Ivoire a few weeks ago, and I was shocked to realize that the Ashanti people were also in Cote d'Ivoire. So they did not just cut them, they bargainized them, some in Cote d'Ivoire, some in Ghana, and some of them in Senegal, but the same Ashanti people. So Africa was partitioned without regard to your ethnic affiliation and without consultation with our forefathers. But like I always say, and I will say this on the demise of this great man, that a child of rape should not allow the circumstances of his birth to mar his future. We must manage Nigeria. We must come together in brotherhood to develop this country and just take it as the will of Almighty Allah that we should all remain together and we must work together for a purpose of bringing unity and development to ourselves and to future generations. May His grace so rest in perfect peace. Let us look at the prayers. Observe a minute silence in honor of Edwin Clark for his services to our nation. Those in support of prayer one say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer two. Send a letter of condolence that has been corrected by the senior senator. Just take it for the purpose of the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. An amendment to prayer two, send a Senate delegation to the family and people of the government of Delta State for his funeral obsequies. I so submit.
Any seconder? Yes. This is Senator Karimi.
Thank you, Mr. President, my colleagues. My name is Karimi Sunday Steve. I represent the people of Kogi West. I hereby second the amendment to the motion to the prayers moved by my distinguished colleague.
Prayer two has been amended to say send a strong delegation to commiserate and attend the burial obsequies of late Pa Edwin Clark from the Nigerian Senate, having been a member of these hallowed chambers. Condole also with the good people of Ijo Nation and the government of Delta State. Those in support of prayer two as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer three, urge the federal government of Nigeria to immortalize him by naming a national monument after him. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, I would like to urge us to now rise and pay honor to the memory of this iconic statesman by Edwin Clark. The great soul of Chief Edwin Clark, OFR CON, who died on the 17th day of February 2025 at the ripe age of 97, rest in perfect peace. Point of order, distinguished Senator Ali Ndume, CON.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, Order 41 and 51. And that is matter of urgent national importance, which I discussed with you, Mr. President. Can I go ahead to present the motion on the urgent need to investigate the alleged funding of Boko Haram by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID?
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Ali Ndume had approached me that he had this matter of urgent importance on allegations of USAID funding Boko Haram in Nigeria, and he would like the Senate to discuss it. We have already taken one motion on Order 41 Rule 4151, but the Senate has implicit authority because of the urgency of this to go beyond just one order of this in a day. We rarely do this. Is it the view of the Senate that in view of the seriousness of this situation internationally and its implication to the security of Nigeria, that he be allowed under Section Order 1 Rule B of certain orders to proceed with this? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. Then the ayes have it. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. The motion, as I earlier said, is the urgent need to investigate the alleged funding of Boko Haram by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. The Senate notes that on Thursday, 13th February 2025, the entire social media space was agog with trending video of a United States Republican Congressman, Scott Perry, representing Pennsylvania, alleging at the inaugural hearing of Subcommittee on Delivering on Government Efficiency that USAID has been funding terrorism terrorist organizations across the world, Boko Haram inclusive. Also note that this allegation is coming up at the heels of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, raising an alarm that Boko Haram terrorist groups are being sponsored and trained by international organizations. Further notes that over the years, the modus operandi of Boko Haram in Nigeria has been a source of great concern, as their source of funding and operations have been shrouded in mystery. Recalls that the devastation caused by Boko Haram in the northeast region and other parts of the country, which includes the bombing of UN building in August 2021, and of course, the bombing of the police headquarters here in Abuja, among other attacks, led to loss of lives of Nigerians in thousands and wanton destructions on properties, which occasioned unprecedented internal displacement across the country. Also recalls that the federal government over the years strived to put measures in place to curtail the activities of terrorist groups in the country by expending huge resources, which seem not to have yielded much result, as the nefarious activities of terrorists continued unabatedly, and observes that the monumental devastation caused by Boko Haram in this country should be a matter of concern, as it has dented the image of this country among the Community of Nations for allegations to begin to emerge at this point in time that some international organizations are behind this unwholesome act. There is the urgent need for steps to be taken by the federal government to unravel the mystery behind this whole episode. Accordingly, one, urge the federal government to constitute an interministerial committee comprising of ministries of defense, interior, foreign affairs, and the headships of armed forces and other security agencies to investigate the allegation and make appropriate recommendation on the way forward. And two, set up an ad hoc committee comprising of the chairman and vice chairman of the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, and Legal Matters, Defense, Army, Navy, Air Force, National Security and Intelligence, Police Affairs, and Foreign Affairs to liaise with the relevant authorities to ascertain the veracity of the allegation with the view to taking appropriate legislative measures. I so move.
Distinguished Senator Kagashehu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Life Bencher.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. My name is Kakashehu Lawan. I represent the good people of Borno Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to second this all-important motion ably moved by distinguished Senator Mohamed Alindume. And by the leave of Mr. President, I would like to chip in a word or two. Mr. President, the allegation contained in this motion paper is very weighty. These hallowed chambers represent 109 federal constituency or senatorial districts across Nigeria. Terrorism, banditry, criminality is always a daily occurrence in the 109 senatorial districts. Mr. President, the intelligence agencies in Nigeria had in the past made numerous attempts to investigate on the funding of these terrorists and bandits through various ways, but did not yield the much desired result. With the pointer by the representative by Mr. Perry Scott, I think there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Let us support this motion wholeheartedly so that we can unravel the veracity or otherwise of the allegation with a view to finding solution so that Nigerians can go to sleep with their two eyes closed. I so second Mr. Senate President, and thank you, my distinguished colleagues.
Yes, distinguished Senator Nengi.
My name is Senator Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Central of Bauchi State. Mr. President, I'm also a co-sponsor of this very, very important motion, eloquently presented and delivered by Senator Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. Mr. President, there are times that we need to reflect. We are operating a presidential system of government. At this point in time, whatever is written here is apt and germane to the matter in question. But having said that, it is important in a plenary like this, it is almost impossible to do justice to the issues raised on this motion. But it is also imperative that it is within our legislative right and mandate to bring issues to the fore like this. We do not need a very robust, elaborate debate. Why? Because as the affects law-making body of the country, the Senate, we need to be briefed, first and foremost, by the heads of various security agencies in a closed-door session. I also watch this in the media. But beyond the media, beyond what I know, beyond what you know, we have intelligence organization that is funded by this government. I strongly feel, Mr. President, that we need to carry just one prayer, which suggests to me that we invite the National Security Advisor, the NIA, the Director of DSS, for a closed-door session with the Senate on this particular matter. You know why? Because that is their prerogative. That is their field. They have been funded to protect this country against all odds. But I'm sure this motion arose because of the inability so far to speak of the government to make any pronouncement on this particular matter. It's disturbing. But the Senate, as it were, should invite the NSA, the NIA, the DSS, for a brief on this matter. From there, we now take it forward. Setting up any committee of the legislature without bringing these people, this is a very serious matter. It is very, very serious. And it has gone viral globally. And therefore, we need to do these things with some facts provided by these various security agencies at a closed-door session. Mr. President, with all due respect, this is my stand on this matter. It is almost impossible to do justice to this particular matter on a debate, in a plenary like this. So I suggest we take one prayer, invite this. Yes, I'm a co-sponsor. That's what I just said. I'm with all the motion. I'm with the content of the motion. But the prayer that needs to be done without any elaborate debate is to invite these people for a closed-door session on this matter. I so suggest.
Let me thank Senator Abdul Nengi for his contribution, and to say that even when I read the issue on the social media, I was a bit circumspect. You know, social media is garbage in, garbage out. Anybody can say anything on the social media. Many of us have experienced social media attacks as leaders. And sometimes 99% of what is in the social media is inaccurate. And sometimes total speculation. And sometimes based on mischief. So there's no way we can shave a man's head behind his back. We should, we must hear from our own security agencies. We must hear from our intelligence agencies. When you mentioned the NIA and the DSS, I also believe we should also look at the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, because they are also interacting with the people in the theater of war in the Northeast. So they will have information on past arrests and questionings and all that to brief us. And security is not something we discuss in the market. It's something that should be done in closed session. Distinguished Senate President, you have anything to add? Then we close.
Barrow Jibran Kano not. Mr. President, I share the same view with you, but I just want to add my voice that we've seen the greatest devastation in this country because of what Boko Haram did to us everywhere in the entire northern part of, in fact, even in the south. They came here, did a lot of things here. You know, the United Nations building was attacked. They were even heading to Lagos, heading to the south, because of diligence and the effort of our security agencies that stopped them. They have occupied the entire country. We saw hell in this country. We saw hell. Thanks to Mr. President, who has been able to deal with them decisively in the manner that they are no longer visible. We have, this government has dealt with them, thrown them into, they've even, they still attack from time to time, but not like before. So it's still work in progress, but they've been dealt with, they've been incapacitated. Mr. President, so if there's anything to lead us to where this problem is coming from, of course, we should take the advantage. We should see that advantage to see how we can deal with this serious calamity once and for all. And I share in totality. I share with you. I share the position that has been canvassed by Senator Ningi and also strengthened by you. So it's a sensitive matter, and it's an allegation. We should be very careful and try to find out the truth of that allegation. Mr. President, I stand with what you said and also stand with what Senator Ningi said. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And in fact, even the U.S. Senate or the U.S. Congress will not delve into allegations on social media. And if they have to, they will invite their security chiefs to get details. So the National Security Advisor, the NIA, the DSS, DIA, we must hear from them in closed session so that they brief us because they have the data, they know the record, and they will know the veracity of the situation. So accordingly, I believe that we should have only one. I would like Senator Ningi to move a motion that we invite those people to brief the Senate in closed session so that before we can make comments on this in the open. But in the meantime, we note the allegation and we also note the devastation that Boko Haram has caused the nation. We commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for being able to tackle the situation to a point where no territory in the country today is hoisting the flag of Boko Haram. Whether we like it or not, he has done a very difficult job well. And so we must commend him across party lines. So Senator Ningi, please phrase your your prayer in a way that we can let this issue rest.
The only prayer to my mind, accordingly, the Senate resolves to invite the National Security Advisor, the Director NIA, the Director DSS, the head of DIA, for a closed-door session with the Senate to discuss this particular sensitive matter and any other security matter at a closed door. I so move.
Distinguished Senator Ali Ndume, you may wish to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. In seconding the motion, I want to say that the allegation was made by Scott Perry. It was not a social media thing. And I agree that such issues should be discussed in a closed session. But Mr. President, this is not a social media stuff. And the investigation is going on right now in the United States Congress. And also today, the President, Donald Trump, also said specifically that in that investigation, the support given to Nigeria so far should also be investigated. With that, I want to second the motion to collapse the two prayers into one. I so second.
Thank you. I also want you to note that America is going through a metamorphosis, a political metamorphosis. It's almost like one political party taking over from another political party, and allegations flying left, right, center. It's only through thorough investigation that the truth can be established. Even America has not taken the allegation hook, line, and sinker. They are investigating. So Nigeria must also investigate to be sure, because we won't just keep quiet. It is true that U.S. aid have been funding Boko Haram in Nigeria. We have no business allowing them to have offices in Nigeria. So before we can take decisive steps and also ask for recompense, automatically we must go deeper into the issue. So it's important that we get briefed by our intelligence community. So distinguished colleagues, I thank distinguished Senator Ali Ndume for raising this all-important motion that impinges on the security of the nation, and also thank all those who have contributed. A motion is on ground by distinguished Senator Nengi that the prayers be collapsed into one, and then seconded by distinguished Senator Ali Ndume, the mover of the motion. Those in support of the prayer, the single prayer, that the Senate should immediately invite the National Security Advisor, Director General of the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, Director General of the DSS, Director General of the DIA, to brief the Senate in a closed session on the veracity or otherwise of these very serious allegations. Say aye. Those again say nay. The ayes have it. I believe we should have a timeline. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, this is security. Unless you just want them to be in attendance, it's security. It may not really have much. But is there any person seconding? Is there any seconder to that request? Security? It's a security matter, but then if anybody say, the Senator Dixon is proposing that the Minister of Foreign Affairs should be invited, but that the Minister of Foreign Affairs should come and brief us on. So stand up now. If you are seconding the motion,
Yeah, Mr. President,
your colleagues will rule.
I wish to second the motion moved by distinguished Senator Dixon
that
the Minister of Foreign Affairs
should be added
to the NSA. The reason is that this is the man that speaks
don't
for
worry,
Nigeria.
just don't open the debate.
So I'm not
those
opening
in
the
support
debate.
that the Minister of Foreign Affairs be added, say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. Leader of the Senate.
Point of order.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Oshiomhole Adams on the Federal Medical Centers Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 717. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Medical Centers Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 717, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal Medical Centers Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 717, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Dachong Pam Nwankon on the Federal University of Veterinary Medicine, VOM, Jos Plateau State, Establishment Bill 2025, SB 718. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Veterinary Medicine, VOM, Jos Plateau State, Establishment Bill 2025, SB 718, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal University of Veterinary Medicine, VOM, Plateau State Establishment Bill 2025, SB 718, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Mohammed Dandutse on the Export-Free Zone Funtua Establishment Bill 2025 SB 719. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Export-free zone. Is it export trade? Is it export trade free zone or export free zone? Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Export Free Zone Funtua, Establishment Bill 2025 SB 719, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Export Free Zone Fontois, Establishment Bill 2025, SB 719, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in my name on the Federal Universities of Agriculture Amendment Bill 2025 SB 720. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Universities of Agriculture Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 720, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal Universities of Agriculture Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 720, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Musa Sani on the Special Agro-Processing Zones Establishment Bill 2023 SB 721. And Mr. President, I say again, because there was an error that has been corrected, the bill is Special Agro-Processing Zone Establishment Bill 2025 SB 721. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Special Agroeconomic Processing Zones Establishment Bill 2025 SB 721, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Special Agro Processing Zones Establishment Bill 2025 SB 721, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate. May wish to approach the chair. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, in view of various committee assignments that would engage the attention of distinguished senators this afternoon, and in further view also of the official engagement of the President of the Senate and other principal officers, I'm rising to move that we step down the orders of the day as contained on the order paper till the next legislative day. And in that regard, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I will be moving that the Senate be now adjourned till Thursday, the 20th day of February 2025 at 11 a.m. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, in view of the other exigencies of national importance and the engagement of the Senate President, I second the motion that the Senate steps down other items on the order paper to the next legislative day. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we step down the other items on the order paper in order to enable us to attend to very important committee meetings. Those in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate. You may wish to move a motion for adjournment of the Senate. No, move a motion for adjournment.
And you've even asked us.
What date? What date?
20th.
Distinguished colleagues, those in support of the motion that the Senate be adjourned to 20th day of February 2025 at 11 a.m. prompt, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned.